Hi, you're watching Riga In Your Pocket's Old Riga walking tour. Behind me is the Latvian Freedom Monument. You can see it says Tavzeme un brīvībai, or for Fatherland and Freedom. It was unveiled in 1935. Perhaps most interestingly, it was completely built by donations from the Latvian people. Behind you is the famous Laima clock, where lots of Latvians meet before they head out to Old Riga. But right now, we're going to head over to Bastion Hill. This is one of Riga's most popular parks, and ironically, it didn't even exist 150 years ago. It's a completely man-made hill, but it's got great views of the surrounding city. Our next stop is the Powder Tower. You can see right behind me. We're now officially in Old Riga. Behind me is the Powder Tower, which dates back to the 14th century. It's actually nearly completely destroyed in 1621 by invading Swedish troops. It was rebuilt again after that. It's now part of the Latvian War Museum. Behind that is the Jacobs Barracks, our next stop on the tour. We're now on Torņiela, or Tower Street. On one side, we have one of the last remaining fragments of Riga's old city walls. On the other side, we have Jākab Kazarms, or Jacob's Barracks, that used to house, well, barracks for armies. It's now basically home to cafes, souvenir shops, and even a residence of one of, I believe it's America's ambassador to Latvia. Across the street from the Jākab Kazarms is the Swedish Gate. When Riga became a part of the Swedish Empire in the 17th century, it was the largest city in the Swedish Empire, larger than Stockholm. And the Swedes in 1698, they built this gate to commemorate their victory. Let's take a walk through. Just above the gate, you can see a lion's head, which was the symbol of the Swedish king. Right next to the gate, in medieval times, the Riga executioner once lived there. And every morning, on the day of an execution, he would put out a red rose on the windowsill to let people know that someone was going to lose their head. This is Torņiela, right next to the Swedish Gate. It's one of Riga's most picturesque streets, and it's the easiest way to get to the Latvian Parliament. We're now standing at the Saima, or Latvian Parliament. And just next to it is St. James Cathedral, one of Latvia's oldest cathedrals. It was built in 1225, and in 1522, it held the first Lutheran service in Latvia. We've now reached the Three Brothers, or Trīs brāļi, which you can see in the background. They're Riga's three oldest residential buildings. The oldest one, which you can see, the white one, dates back to the 15th century. Let's take a closer look. Riga Castle was built in 1330 as a stronghold for the Livonian order. It was destroyed and rebuilt several times over the years. Today it houses the History Museum of Latvia, Foreign Art Museum, and the Latvian president also has his office there. The square actually isn't also a bad place for a beer. Cathedral Square is the very heart of Old Riga. We have in the background a radio house from the 1930s, beer gardens, plenty of people walking by, and of course, Riga Cathedral, the largest house of worship in the Baltics. The House of Blackheads is one of Riga's most beautiful buildings. It was built in 1344 as a guild hall for unmarried merchants. Supposedly they threw some of the wildest parties in medieval Europe. Just beyond that is the Occupation Museum. Inside you can see how horribly the Soviets and Nazis treated the Latvian people. And beyond that you can see the Red Rifleman Monument. St. Peters Cathedral is mentioned in historical documents as early as 1209. Even at one point, the tower up above was the highest tower in Europe, made of wood. Unfortunately, it burned down several times, the last time during the Second World War. The new tower that you see up above was completed in 1973, and today you can take a lift up to the top for excellent views of Riga. The Menton Dorf house is a truly unique museum. Basically, the whole building has been reconstructed so that you can see what an 18th century merchant's house looked like. They have original wall frescoes, you can see period furniture, everything. It looks just like it did back in the 18th century. We're now on Skarniel, or Butcher Street. It's one of Riga's best preserved medieval streets. Behind me, St. Johns Cathedral. In medieval times, it was served as a chapel for the Dominican abbey that was here. The street itself is a great place to buy souvenirs, just walk around, sit out at an outdoor cafe, have a beer, just relax and soak up the atmosphere. Just beyond me is the entrance to St. Peters Cathedral, and behind me is the entrance to John's Courtyard. We finally reached the last stop on our walking tour of Old Riga. This is Lieve Laukums. Here you can take a look at the cat house and the great and small guild halls. It's also a great place to just sit back with a cold beer. I think we've discovered two things on this little walking tour of Riga. And one is that Old Riga truly is beautiful. Two, that I should probably stick to my day job as a writer. I don't think I'm much of a TV presenter. So anyway, take a look at the square and enjoy. I'm going to take a sip of a well-deserved beer. Cheers. Riga.